Welcome to the Clever Peasant. Today, we have another 3-bottle list. I live in Canada. We infamously don't make good whiskey. I mean, I can think of a lot of Canadians that are like, no, we make really good whiskey. And yeah, it's because you're tasting the Coke you've mixed the whiskey with. You're tasting the Pepsi you mixed the whiskey with. You ain't tasting the whiskey. Canadian whiskey leans heavy into rye and not in a good way. A lot of people in Canada drink it because it's basically cheaper. Like you can even get like a 12-year-old age statement whiskey in Canada for 20 or 30 bucks, maybe 35. And you'd think that's going to be good because it's been in the barrel for that much time, but it's not great. However, I have explored Canadian whiskey more than any other, it would be a genre? It's not a genre. More than any other category of whiskey. I've explored Canadian whiskey the most. And I'm doing a 3-bottle list today of Canadian whiskeys that I think are actually worth the time and the money. So the first and the cheapest is going to be Barn Burner. Barn Burner, 42.5%. It is $34.95, and it is much like it says. It is a burny, hot, spicy. And I don't mean like cinnamon or ginger spicy, just spicy in the overall heat of the whiskey. It's $34.95. It has a cool bottle. It looks like they're trying to make it look like Bullet bourbon, but you'll see an image of the Barn Burner in this video anyways. It's pretty good from memory, from my experience. Compared to most Canadian whiskeys, it's an awful lot better. Next, we're going to go to Signal Hill. Now, Signal Hill, to me, is markedly better than the Barn Burner. Signal Hill is smoother, sweeter, more complex, but it only comes in at 40% alcohol. It is $39.95, probably the most expensive bottle on this list, and at $40 for a Canadian whiskey. Truthfully, if I reference some of my other lists, there's a lot of better products from places who can produce in my opinion, better whiskeys for that price. Like for that same $40, you can get Islay Mist. You can get Evan Williams for much less than the $40. You can get, for a couple bucks more, you can get Wild Turkey 101. In terms of other scotches, yeah, you can get Johnny Walker Red in a 750 bottle for, $35.95. And Signal Hill is $39.95. Now, I understand there's a special process. It is probably the best flavor on this list, but, that's just a matter of my opinion. And the last one is Stock and Barrel. Stock and Barrel, when I first bought them, they have a red label and a blue label. I think I'm referencing the red label here. When I first had Stock and Barrel, I was like, whoa, this is where Canadian whiskeys should be leaning. It has it tastes so much different than so many other Canadian whiskeys. It doesn't just taste like the same, grain alcohol with just a slightly different process as so much Canadian whiskey does. It's its own flavor. It's got its own thing going on. I recommend it. And the Red Barrel comes in at 43% alcohol and 35 bucks. Now, in all these lists, I've never done this before, but today, because I'm Canadian and we live in Canada, this is going to have a honorable mention. Now, the reason it's an honorable mention and it doesn't actually get on the list is because personally, I wasn't in love with it, but I absolutely recognize what it's doing. And that is Collingwood Double Barrel. It comes in at 45% alcohol, which is the highest ABV on this list. It's $36.95. And it leans a lot more into corn in the mash bill than rye. And for me, it was a little too sweet, a little too mellow, which is interesting because it's 45% alcohol, but it was like maple syrup almost. Not quite. It's more like corn syrup. It's very corny whiskey. It is personally not something I think I would buy again, but I put it in as an honorable mention because of what I just said. I recognize that what they're doing is different and much different than anything in that price point. Like, we're talking like less than $40. There's not much less than $40 aside from like flavored whiskeys. There's like the um, Wayne Gretzky Maple Cask, which is not really flavored. It's just aged in maple cask, which has got its own thing. It tastes like maple syrup whiskey, but it's I think $39.95 or maybe 42 or $43. So in the price point for less than $40, I think you'd be hard pressed to find as unique a flavor profile as Collingwood Double Barrel. Doesn't mean I like it, but you might like it. I am the Clever Peasant. Thanks for tuning in. Like, subscribe, join me, share some information below, make a suggestion. Like I'm constantly looking for a good Canadian whiskey. I've had the Wisers, I've had the Gibsons, I've had the Alberta Premiums, and they're just not cutting it. So if you know anything outside of that realm of Canadian whiskey that you think is worth tasting at a reasonable price, leave it in the comments. Cheers.